No doc funding for your LLC. If you've been spending time on YouTube, then odds are you've probably come across some of this content where you have someone that's saying you can get access to 100, 150, $250,000 plus worth of business capital without having to use things like tax returns, show any type of personal financial statements, any type of profit and loss sheets, or even your bank statements showing how much money is in your business bank accounts. But I want to give you the traps that a lot of entrepreneurs are falling into because they're relying on just no doc type of funding options to fund their businesses. Now, I kept getting these videos forwarded to me and people kept asking me, is this legit? Is this not? And it's so nuanced that I figured, what if I actually made a video for what to avoid? So this way you don't fall prey to some of the traps that are pretty much set out there, what I call kind of like booby traps that are put into place by financial institutions to essentially take out the everyday small business owner. And so with that in mind, let's go ahead and go with the first point. Industry classification is one of the biggest levers that we're pulling on with our clients. The reason for this is because banks, lenders, and government agencies, if you're working with maybe government contracting, they're going to use your type of classification that you're using, again, whether it's an NAICS code or an SIC code, either one of those will be used. They're going to use this to bucket your business and they're going to assess the risk, meaning, do we actually want to do business with your line of work? And if so, how much risk are we willing to take on your business? AKA, how much capital are we willing to extend? Or again, if you're in government contracting, how big of a contract are we willing to issue you? So sidebar here, this goes beyond, now that we're actually talking this through, this goes beyond just you getting access to business capital. This goes now into the land of you actually being able to do business with the government agency or with another company overall. But I digress. High risk is essentially, you have industries that are considered in 4 buckets. High risk is typically the one that a lot of us want to stay away from. Rarely do I see businesses, at least ones that we take on to help scale their capital with, rarely do we see restricted industries. So you have 4 buckets. You have restricted, you have high risk, you have low risk, and then you have preferred, which is the holy grail. Most people are going to fall in line when they're first starting out, right in that high risk. And then when they start working with a company like ours to help them get structured properly, we start moving them into low risk or into preferred altogether, which again, those are really the 2 buckets where you want to live if you're looking to scale access to business capital. But restricted, the reason why I say we rarely work with these is because those are a bit more taboo industries. That's going to be like real estate land flipping, or you have cannabis, or you have adult entertainment, a bit more taboo. And it's what they call almost like a gambling type of business. No pun intended. Gambling is actually inside of restricted industry, but they have speculative types of businesses. That's where you have that real estate investing where you're thinking, man, that's not necessarily taboo. It's not, but it's highly speculative versus something that is more of a proven model of what you can expect to get in terms of earnings month in and month out. Remember, you have to look at this from the eyes of the banks and the underwriters, which is the data that I'm giving you. Misclassification is going to trigger denials the quickest. Your money is going to become more expensive. This is where you see you either got denied, you're having to pay more for the money that you're getting, so your interest rates shoots up, which ends up eating into your bottom line of what your business is taking home. And it can also raise red flags in terms of you potentially being seen as a fraudulent type of business, even though you're probably earning an honest living. And if you're watching this video, odds are you're just trying to, provide an honest living for your family, and you're trying to provide an honest living for your community, and you're trying to create real jobs, which is why I'm giving you this data. Best practices, though, for this is you want to ensure that the classification that you pick for your business and for, again, the industry that you are involved in avoids any unnecessary funding obstacles. This means that you want to start moving into something that's considered low or preferred. We have a full framework that we walk our clients through when we're onboarding them and a complete SOP on this, but something that I'll give you before we move on to the next mistake that you want to avoid is you can simply ask the business banker if they know what the heck they're talking about, because sometimes they don't. But you can simply ask them, hey, what are the type of businesses that you guys are working with right now? And then, insert the year. So at the time of this recording, it's 2025. In 2025. And so take a look at the last 4 or 5 businesses that they're essentially funding the most, or industries, I should say. And that'll give you a good gauge as to their lending appetite and what they're looking for. Next up, and this one is highly slept on. And I'm giving it to you here because I don't want you to, again, fall prey to some of these like booby traps, like tripwire that they sent or that they put on these applications when business owners send them out, is your zip code for where the business is established. Some zip codes are flagged as a higher risk for fraud and lower business stability. So the way that banks, financial institutions, and even credit unions, the way that they're looking at this is depending on not just where or what state you opened up the business, but where the business is actually being conducted, like whether you select your home address, your virtual office address, that's a big one, or even a commercial location, they're going to take into account the default rate of the local business. And so a good example of this is if you own, let's say, a barbecue spot and you own it in the middle of town, but all the restaurants over the last 24 months in your town, for whatever reason, have been shutting down, even though at a national level, opening up a food truck or a restaurant, it's totally fine. The fact that you're opening it up in a demographic where things are going under, that means that the local economy is taking a hit, or at least for the restaurant industry as a whole. Guess what's going to happen with your business when you go to submit a business credit line application? Guess what's going to happen to your business when you try to get access to business capital? You're going to hit a brick wall, like fast. And it's because of where the business is established. Lenders, financial institutions, underwriters, they're looking at your zip code as a benchmark for economic stability. And then they're also calculating that into default rates, which gets thrown in, not to get like too in the weeds here, but that's what also gets thrown into your risk ratings, which we talk a lot about on this channel. We have a full video on that, probably link it down below. But they start looking at your risk rating, which goes beyond just your business credit score, to determine what's the likelihood of your business going under in the next 12 to 24 months. And then from there, they're basing their decision whether you're approved, denied, or you get some weak low limits that you can't do anything with anyways, based off of, again, where the zip code of your business is established. The best practice for this is you want to use a legitimate business address or a virtual office address in a strong location. So even if it takes a little bit of shopping around, and look, even if you have to kind of like move your business, at least on paper, so that it can be in a better demographic, it's going to serve you far better in the long run than keeping it in what we would call an impoverished area that's going to just be an uphill battle for the rest of your business career. Next up is age of the business. And this is really where things start to things like took a turn with the whole no doc funding popularities, because people try to find loopholes, and I get it. Like, you don't have a lot of time in business. If you're watching this, you're maybe a newer LLC owner, and you're thinking, okay, how can I start drumming up some capital pretty quickly so that I can like start getting my wheels turning and start creating some revenue inside of my business? And so a lot of the no doc programs that you started seeing out there, which again didn't require any type of financials like tax returns, profit and loss, personal financial statements, even bank statements, is those were really meant and geared for businesses that were under 2 years old. The problem started happening right around 2022, 2023. We started seeing a turn. And so the age started to get bumped up. Is could you still get access to some of that no doc stuff? Yes, but then it got bumped up. It went from, as long as your business is established for 6 months, okay, you're good. Then they started raising the standard. Hey, it's every, like, your business has to be established for at least 1 year. Okay, got it. And then it got bumped up to about 1.5 years, 2 years. Right now, based on where the economy is, and this is cyclical, by the way, this can always go back to some of the low doc stuff later on, but with where the economy is right now, it's right around a 2-year benchmark, meaning your business has to be established for at least 2 years before you can get access to that bigger capital that you tend to see banks promoting, which is typically the business lines of credit. Now, with business credit cards, you can probably get away a little bit more with not having to show as much documentation other than a strong, what we call foundation in terms of how your business is formed. But overall, if you're looking for what we call real cash value credit that you can actually use to purchase things like real estate, you can use for payroll, then you're going to eventually want to graduate into business lines of credit, which is what we, again, focused on a lot about on this channel anyways. So newer businesses, just like the name of the game, they face lower approvals overall and higher rates at least from an entry point. Again, this is excluding business credit cards. Business credit cards are pretty easy to get. It's a good starter. It's a nice stepping stone, but that's ultimately just going to be a starter. It's not going to be where most strong business owners want to land. Everyone wants to scale beyond that, which is what we help our clients do. And so some of the banks are going to require revenue history that's tied to the business age. But the issue with this is that a lot of people have also been sold the same way that they were sold on the blue pill or the Kool-Aid, that no doc funding is the way to go because you don't have to show any financials. But we're starting to see that that's starting to get closed out. They were also sold shelf corporations, which meant, hey, you could just buy a shelf corporation, which is an LLC that no one's using right now, and you can use that age to bypass not having to show any financials. That's also not working. And the reason why that's working is because banks, again, want to see revenue tied to the corporation. So typically the way that it works is that when you get sold a shelf corporation, you don't get it sold with tax returns. You don't get it sold with financials. It's just a piece of paper saying this business is 10 years old. This business is 5 years old, but it doesn't check off any of the other boxes that we've been talking about up to this point. So a best practice for this is that you want to establish early on, and even if your business has, even if you've had a business for some time and you're just learning this right now in real time, then you want to start working on this sooner rather than later, which means you want to establish your business credit early on, or at least right now, if you've even been in the game for this long. Ensure proper filings, which means your business is properly structured, properly classified, and you want to avoid resetting the business age due to restructuring, which is something that we see quite a bit when clients first come to us. Is they've tried to restructure their business on their own, and then they actually end up resetting the clock. So they go from having a 10-year business to a day one business, which works against them because now all of the beautiful age that they built up to that point gets wiped out overnight because they did something in the restructuring process that caused the clock to restart. So now all of the funding options that they would have been able to access up to that point get wiped out. And it sucks, but it happens more often than you think. Next one up is how the businesses generate money. And so you have to get good at this. By the way, if you're in business and you have no idea how your business generates money, then pause the video and go figure out how you're actually going to generate money for your business first. I don't care how much capital we can help you get access to, or how much capital you're going to get access to just by watching our content here online. If you decide to work with us, it's beyond that. I actually want to work with people, and I want, you guys, when you're commenting on our videos, to tell me, hey, this is what I do in my business. This is how we generate money. This is how many clients we get. This is how many homes I have to flip. This is how many properties we have to do a demo on. This is how many properties we rehab. This is how many contracts I have to pick up every month. If you can't answer basic metric questions on what you're looking to do month in, month out, each quarter, then I'm going to put a pause, and I'm going to ask you politely, hey, put a pause on you actually wanted to get business credit just yet, because it's like handing someone a vehicle and saying, hey, here, you drive it, and we're going down the freeway at 100 miles an hour, but I don't give you the steering wheel to go along with it. That would be extremely irresponsible of you to do as a business owner, which is why, before I give you this piece right here, learn how your business actually generates revenue so that when you add business capital to it, you're off to the races and you're adding fuel to the fire and you're able to 10x whatever it is that you're working on. So when we're talking about how your business generates money, we want to take a look at proven models. And so remember, banks don't like speculative businesses. And so what type of model do you have? What's the LTV for the clients that you have, which is the the best way that I can put this, especially if this is your first time hearing it, is what's the total amount of money that you're going to make from the person that you're servicing over a long period of time. So that's called lifetime value. And so if you don't know what that number is, again, sit down, take a look at that. How much are you generating per flip? If you don't know what that is, take a look at that number. Is it a subscription model? Is it a retainer model? Is it contracted work? Those are all preferred type of revenue models that banks and financial institutions typically like to look at. And by the way, knowing this is going to help you not just get access to capital one time, but when you put a system into place like what we help our clients do, you're able to consistently get access to business capital at scale because you understand your business. And so if you're in a place right now, again, whether you're brand new or you're just thinking about this for the first time, you want to be able to show, especially at scale, consistent and verifiable income streams. So document, 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 plus it makes you a better business owner anyways. Cash flow cycles is the next one, and this is a big one because when we're structuring out funding models with our clients and we're installing these simple funding setups into their businesses, is we're not just blindly applying for stuff, even if the credit score is like 820 on the personal side, even if they've been in business for 6 years, even if they're generating $500,000 a year. Like we have some pretty big whales inside of our community. But even with those guys and gals, we're still putting what we call a system in place that times when we go for access to capital in a predictable, sustainable way, but we're doing it methodically. What this means is you don't want to go in prematurely and ask for capital if you have inconsistent cash flow cycles, because this is going to lead to funding denials. This means that 1 month you're up, 1 month you're down. 1 month you're up, 1 month you're down. 1 month you're at 10K, the next month you're -5. 1 month you're at 12K, the next month you're -8. That's not healthy for business, and banks are going to put a big old red X on your file when you go to apply for funding. The other thing that you want to pay attention to is the cash flow cycles in terms of like the patterns. And so you have what's called a high season of a cash flow cycle and a low season of a cash flow cycle. If you don't know what this is for your industry, again, pause the video, take a look at this. This is one of the first things that I have our clients do when we're working with them. And that's, hey, do you know when is high time for your industry? And this is going to vary not just by industry, but it's also going to vary on where you're located in the country. I can tell you from experience, I used to sell real estate, and I used to have a network all around the country of people that I would network with, other agents that I would network with. We would send each other deals. And I remember like selling here in Florida, you can sell real estate January through December. There's really no difference in time of year that you can sell real estate here. But I remember having friends and colleagues up north, and they would like heavily depend on referrals at that point because they couldn't door knock. They couldn't go visit for sale by owners. They couldn't visit expired listings as frequently because it was snowing. And so they had to depend a little bit more off of word of mouth during those seasons because it was slower. We didn't necessarily have that here in Florida. The reason why I bring that up for you is because with your business, if you go into a funding round prematurely, not fully understanding, I'm about to apply for capital during a low cash flow cycle, even if your business is generating $500,000 a month, even if you have an 850 plus credit score, like, or 850 would actually be the max, but an 850 credit score, everything is completely dialed into the business. You're applying during a low season. And so the likelihood of you getting approved for the type of capital that you want drastically decreases, or you could actually end up getting denied altogether because, again, you applied during a low season versus timing it in a high time. High cash flow cycle plus high cash reserves in the bank is a golden ticket when you're setting yourself up to apply for business capital as you start to scale. And then last but not least, we have number of employees, AKA company size. Financial institutions are going to see your teams as an indicator of stability and growth. This is why it's important that you want to get into the habit of documenting if you haven't done so already. And by the way, you want to have a clear differentiator between employees that you are like categorizing that work for you and contractors. Under no circumstance should you ever put on a business credit line application, if you have 4 contractors working in your business or with you that you pay out as subs, as employees. And so if you put that on your business credit reports, that's not how you set it up. That could actually get you flagged and also get you into some deep water. Not compliant. You also don't do that when you are applying for a business credit line. So outside of just setting up your business credit reports, you also want to pay attention to that specific question when it's being asked. Are these 4 employees or are these 4 contractors? The key difference here is, are you paying those employees with the W-2? If you are not, you can't call them employees. And you can't use that to, again, like make your business look bigger than what it is. A lot of people try to get away with, well, these are contractors, but I can kind of get away. I mean, they're 1099s. I can kind of get away with them being employees because I know that it'll make my business look bigger than what it is. No. If you only have you and an assistant and you're paying them a W-2, it's just the assistant as the employee. If it's you and 3 subs, that they work maybe on a quarterly basis whenever you have a project up, it's not 3 employees, it's just you. And so the best practice for this is when you build a structured team of employees, you want to again identify who's an employee and who's a contractor, because that is going to be a clear distinction for how your business is also going to be bucketed and categorized. So there you have it. Those are all the funding traps that you want to avoid, especially if you are looking to venture into the no doc funding land. Again, are there options out there that you can still get access to business capital without having to jump through a ton of hoops? Yes, but you also want to be mindful of everything that we shared in this video, because it's going to pay dividends as you continue to grow and scale your business, because you're building a business that isn't just appealing for funding, but you're building a business that's going to serve you in the long run, because you actually know how it works in and out. And so if you want our team to take a look at your business, we can take a deep dive and see where you're at, what's broken, and see if we can help you install a simple funding setup that allows you to get access to business capital as your business continues to grow predictably and sustainably. You can book a call down below, insightinnercircle.com, pinned as the first comment. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.